Hey, how's it going? It's really early in the morning, so I have to be pretty quiet, but I'm getting ready to smoke a brisket today. So I have a local butcher in Easton, Kansas, Smitty's Butcher Shop. Now, I'm not a paid endorser or anything, but I like the meat that they bring. So they do freshly slaughtered, locally raised meats a lot of times. They also process other animals. So this is a brisket flat, and I made it in two chunks because that's kind of, it just made sense to do it that way. Trimmed off as much of the fat as reasonable. And for me, I just like salt and pepper, nothing else. So I'm gonna go outside and fire up the coals, and then we'll throw it on the smoker. All right, so the next step of this process is the fuel for the smoker. By the way, I've been up since 4:30 dealing with Spectrum Internet. You guys had to do that yet? It's a joy. So back to what we're doing here. I like using lump charcoal. If it's available, if it's not available, don't freak out. Just use Kingsford or whatever. All you need is fuel, right? You know, because the smoke flavor, at least for me, I find that sometimes you can use wood chunks and sometimes not. If your smoker is well seasoned, it really doesn't take a whole lot to get that smoke flavor going in your food rather easily. Lump charcoal, though, take note of this, it burns hotter. I like using it for all kinds of, smoking purposes, but if you want a little cooler fire, like if you're just going to be smoking some chicken, actually my smoker does a really good job regulating temperature, but it's almost like no matter what I do, I think this stuff almost gets too hot. And chicken you want to bring up to, 170 or whatever, 175 at least. But this stuff can get away from you if you're not careful. So sometimes with chicken, I'll just use regular briquettes. But if I'm doing brisket, I want to go ahead and let it, if it wants to get a little hot, it's no big deal. The brisket, you want to get it up to like 200 degrees anyway. So how do I light this? I use the all natural method. It's the same method that my father used and his father used and his father's mother's brother used, but that's where the family tree kind of gets weird. With good old-fashioned propane. Just like the old days. It just gets it going. That's all it takes. All right. Well, next step is going to be to take you over to the smoker and we'll go through that. All right, there's your smoker. Some call it the ugly drum smoker. I like to call it the ugly drum smoker. Plans are widely available on the internet. I swear by this thing, and it was given to me by a friend of mine. And I've had a variety of different smokers, but the size of this thing is perfect. It gets enough food done for what I need for a family of 6 and then some. Basically, it's got a kind of a vent right here with the 1-inch ball valve. Then you have a couple other capped valves down here. All you got to do to let air in down low is to take the cap off. Inside, Weber grilling grates, huh? Who the funk? Just standard Weber grates fit perfect in here. I'm kind of doing this one-handed, so bear with me. And the beauty of this design is that you don't even need a water bowl. I don't mess with a water bowl. Basically, the magic happens in this dude right here. So this is a water bowl with some holes punched in it, and that just kind of acts as a heat shield. I gotta grab something real quick because the best part of this is how you get this thing set up to do a slow burn on the charcoal. And I'm gonna go grab that bag of charcoal and another little device called a coffee can and show you how my friend set this up to do like a good control burned at the bottom. All right. All right, so check this out. You take this coffee can and you put it in the center, okay? Take your charcoal and you loop it around the outside, just like that. And the thing is with this smoker is so miserly on fuel, you don't need a ton of fuel. Like an 8-pound bag of charcoal, it will be enough heat for like 6-7 hours at least, maybe 10 or 11, depending on how tight you control it. In fact, definitely 10 or 11. You can get that temperature stuck right at about 225 or so, you're good to go. Throw in some, I'm using, I think this is apple post oak. Oh yeah, I bought oak because I'm doing brisket, duh. I use fruit trees for pork and chicken. I just love post oak or any kind of oak for brisket. Just raw smoke flavor. And for the brisket that I'm doing, I won't need any more fuel than that. So once you hit about 200, 205, somewhere in there, you are good to go. And so what you do is you put that chimenea of hot coals in here, and then you pull this out. So that'll be the next step. I'll show you that. Then you drop that basket to the bottom of the ugly drum, and then you're good. Put your rack in, put your heat shield in, throw your meat on. I forgot to mention this piece right here. This is the ash catch that sits all the way at the bottom. Just like that. All right, so the lump charcoal is close enough here, I think. Some say you need to let it go white. I don't believe that. I've never done that. As long as you got a good core of that, nice and hot, don't waste the fuel waiting for all of it to turn white. That's just my preference. So then you pour this in here the best you can. And if you notice, I changed gloves. So you're gonna grab that can, pull it out, not melt your freaking wrapper on your barbecue grill. Just threw that on the dang thing. It's all right, it's not melting. And now I got my basket of fuel here. Now this part you kind of want to get moving. I'm gonna drop it down. These are insulated leather gloves. Just make the investment if you're gonna do this stuff. There you go, we're in. Next step, heat shield. Lays on top. Hopefully you can see that. Next step, rack number one, which I don't even really need that for this that I'm doing today. I'm just gonna top rack the brisket. I need a cameraman. You wanna see a magic trick? So I can grab the meat. Let's do it. One fat side up. Oh, camera's moving. I'll fix it, I promise. There you go. Look at that. Whoa. Now, once the lid slams home on this bad boy, I'm not even gonna lift it for probably a good 4 hours. I'm not even gonna put a temperature probe in there. I've got some ones that are on the lid. That gives me an idea. But that meat's not gonna get done or overcooked or anything in 4 hours unless I let it run away. And one way that these ugly drum smokers can run away from you on heat is if you check it. Because when you introduce all that oxygen, those flames will they'll get crazy in there, especially if you have dripping grease and stuff like that. So just don't lift the lid. I mean, I don't know what time it is right now, probably about 7. I won't even look at this probably until about 10:30 or 11. So I have one hole open on the bottom, and this is just kind of what I have figured out. And then I leave this guy open about halfway. And when 11 o'clock rolls around, I'll do a temperature check. If I'm hitting around 160, I guess, if I'm hitting around 160 or so, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it and put it back on. You're not really going to get a whole lot more smoke in the meat after 3 or 4 hours. It's just not necessary. Plus, you can over smoke meat, and it becomes very bitter, in my view. But we are rolling. I'm going to see if you can see what I see. Oh, yeah. Look at that. So there we go. All right, now we're getting to the fun stuff. So a little bit ago, about 45 minutes ago, I threw this thermometer in here, and it's showing my food temperatures at 167. So that's a good range to go ahead and wrap it. Anything beyond that, you're going to lose juices, and some would also call this the stalling temperature, where sometimes the meat just kind of hangs at that temperature for a while. So I'm going to do this part kind of quick, because remember earlier I was saying this can flare up, and I can hear it dripping in there, and I don't want to ruin the fuel by burning it too quickly once I introduce a ton of oxygen. So I'm just going to grab the meat, quickly get it moved over, and then we'll look at it. Oh yes. So put the lid back on that. Just that amount of time right there is enough to really cook that liquid up. By the way, silicone gloves are amazing. All right, let me set this down. Look at that. See that dark? That's the bark. That's good. I got a secret solution in this bottle. I'll share you the chemical name. It's dihydrogen oxide. Okay, dihydrogen oxide. It's really hard to find. But what it does is I'll just spray it a little bit with this special formula. Get a little bit of moisture in there. I mean, dihydrogen oxide. That's not even going to cool it down. It's just going to keep it moist in there. Wrap it. Wrapping actually speeds up the cooking process. It gets you closer to that 200, 205 range, somewhere in there. It's going to be good. Cannot wait. Careful when you do this, because you don't want to poke through the bottom of the pan. All right, go time. And if you want my stance on pellet smokers, I think they're lovely. They are very, it's a very easy time for people to get into smoking meat if they don't do it already, but the pellet smoker is just absolutely effortless. I mean, at that point it just comes down to rub and technique, but you know, temperature is temperature is temperature. I'm still a glutton for the stoking of the fire, so to speak. Always have been. It's just part of it for me. So food temperature right now 165. Grill temperature says 153, but it was at about 250 or so. And I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm not gonna mess with the vent or anything. I still have plenty of fuel, and it's doing its thing. So, all right, we'll see after a while. Here we go. I'm at 201. Smoker temperature 226 on the money. I mean, doesn't get much better than that. So this thermometer says it's at 190. So you could tell you can't always trust the analog thermometers. Plus, once those thermometers have been heated and cooled several times, it seems like they start to fail. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brisket off and I'm going to let it rest. Normally what I like to do is do a really slow cool down by putting it in a cooler. But we're hungry. Sliced up, good to go. It's got a nice little smoke ring on it. I think I could have taken it up just a little bit more in temperature. I think the meat probe wasn't in as good as it could have been in order to give me a good indication, but I mean, that's pretty tender right there. Don't you think, Winnie? Does that look good to you? Yeah, she says it looks good to her. So there you go, smoked brisket.